Have you ever wondered where modern universities came from?
Or how ancient knowledge from Greece, India, and Persia survived the Dark Ages? The answer isn't found in Athens or Rome, but in a city that became the intellectual center of the world, Baghdad.
In the heart of this bustling metropolis stood a legendary institution that would change the course of history forever, the House of Wisdom.
Today, we are journeying back to the Golden Age of Islam to uncover the story of the world's first true research university. Imagine a time, over 1,000 years ago, when one city was the brightest beacon of knowledge on earth.
This was Baghdad in the 9th century, the capital of the powerful Abbasid Caliphate.
The empire was vast, prosperous, and incredibly curious. Its rulers, particularly caliphs like Harun al-Rashid and his son Al-Mamun, weren't just conquerors.
They were patrons of learning. They had a visionary goal: to gather all the world's knowledge under one roof and build upon it.
This wasn't just about collecting books.
It was about creating a powerhouse of intellect and innovation. And so, the House of Wisdom, or Bayt al-Hikma, was born. It started as a private library for the caliph, but quickly grew into something much grander: a public academy, a translation institute, and an astronomical observatory, all rolled into one.
It was an invitation to the greatest minds of the era to come together, collaborate, and push the boundaries of human understanding.
The vision was simple yet profound. Knowledge was a universal treasure that belonged to all of humanity, and Baghdad would be its guardian. The first great mission of the House of Wisdom was a monumental translation movement. The Abbasids understood that knowledge knew no borders or languages.
They sent emissaries far and wide to the Byzantine Empire, to Persia, to India, to acquire every important manuscript they could find. These weren't just dusty old scrolls.
They were the works of Aristotle, Plato, Euclid, Ptolemy, and Galen from the Greek world.
They were medical texts from India, mathematical concepts from Persia, and astronomical charts from the Syriac tradition.
Once these texts arrived in Baghdad, an army of scholars got to work.
These weren't just any translators. They were brilliant, multilingual experts in their fields, often Christians and Jews working alongside Muslims. They didn't just translate word for word. They meticulously studied, annotated, and corrected the texts, ensuring the essence and accuracy of the knowledge were preserved. This immense effort saved countless ancient works from being lost to time.
Without the scholars of Baghdad, the European Renaissance might have looked very different, if it happened at all.
They built a bridge across centuries, connecting the ancient world to the future.
But the House of Wisdom was much more than a library or a translation center. It was a place of active, original research, arguably the world's first true research university.
Scholars weren't just expected to read the old masters. They were challenged to question them, test their theories, and to develop new ones.
This is where we see the early stirrings of the modern scientific method. The emphasis was on empirical evidence observation, experimentation, and rigorous proof.
If a theory from an ancient Greek text didn't match what could be observed in the real world, it was revised or discarded. This spirit of critical inquiry was revolutionary.
It shifted the focus from blind acceptance of authority to a hands-on, evidence-based approach to discovering truth.
Scholars would conduct experiments in alchemy, which laid the groundwork for modern chemistry. They would make detailed astronomical observations to check and correct ancient charts.
This intellectual environment, buzzing with debate and discovery, fostered a culture where no idea was too sacred to be questioned.
It was a true laboratory for the mind. The results of this multidisciplinary approach were staggering. The House of Wisdom became a hub for breakthroughs that still shape our world today. In mathematics, the scholar Al-Khwarizmi synthesized Indian and Greek knowledge to create something entirely new: algebra.
The very word algebra comes from his book title, Algebra.
He also introduced Hindu-Arabic numerals, the 0, 1, 2, 3 we use every day to the Western world, along with the decimal system, revolutionizing calculation and commerce.
In astronomy, scholars at the Baghdad Observatory refined Ptolemy's models of the cosmos.
They calculated the Earth's circumference with remarkable accuracy, created detailed star maps, and built sophisticated instruments like astrolabes. Medicine also flourished. Physicians like Al-Razi wrote comprehensive medical encyclopedias that became standard textbooks in Europe for centuries. He was a pioneer of clinical observation, distinguishing between diseases like smallpox and measles for the first time.
In optics, Ibn al-Haytham, who was influenced by the work done in Baghdad, conducted groundbreaking experiments on light and vision, proving that we see because light enters our eyes, not because our eyes emit rays.
This is just a glimpse.
Chemistry, geography, philosophy, engineering, every field was pushed forward by the brilliant minds associated with the House of Wisdom.
For several centuries, Baghdad remained the undisputed capital of science and culture.
The knowledge generated within the walls of the House of Wisdom didn't stay confined there. It began to spread.
A key channel was Andalus, or Muslim Spain.
Cities like Cordoba and Toledo became secondary centers of learning, where Arabic works were translated into Latin. Scholars from all over Europe flocked to Spain to access this incredible repository of knowledge.
Later, during the Crusades, there was further contact and exchange, as European crusaders and traders brought books and ideas back with them.
This slow but steady transfer of knowledge planted the seeds for Europe's intellectual awakening.
When European scholars rediscovered the works of Aristotle or the medical texts of Galen, they were often reading them from Arabic translations that included centuries of commentary and additions from Islamic scholars.
The founding of the first European universities in places like Bologna and Paris was directly inspired by the model of institutions like the House of Wisdom.
The concepts of algebra, the scientific method, and advanced medical practices all flowed into Europe, helping to fuel the Renaissance and the scientific revolution.
So what happened to this incredible center of learning? The story has a tragic end.
In 1258, the Mongol army, led by Hulagu Khan, sacked Baghdad.
The city, which had been the jewel of the world, was utterly destroyed.
Accounts from the time describe a horrific scene of devastation.
The grand libraries, including the House of Wisdom, were burned.
Countless books, the collective knowledge of centuries, were thrown into the Tigris River. It is said that the river ran black with the ink of the books and red with the blood of the scholars who were killed.
It was a catastrophic blow to the intellectual world. The physical institution was gone, and its collection was lost forever. An era had come to a violent and sudden end. The destruction of Baghdad marked a turning point, and the center of global scientific inquiry began to shift. While the buildings were turned to ash and the books to pulp, the legacy of the House of Wisdom could not be completely erased.
Its spirit lived on.
The knowledge it had nurtured and spread had already taken root elsewhere.
The ideas, the methods, and the discoveries had been copied, translated, and transported across the globe. The fire of curiosity and critical thinking that burned so brightly in 19th century Baghdad had already sparked new flames in Spain, Italy, and beyond. The House of Wisdom teaches us a powerful lesson. Knowledge is resilient. It may be suppressed, but it will always find a way to resurface. It also reminds us that progress is a global, collaborative effort.
The achievements of the Islamic Golden Age were built upon the foundations of earlier civilizations, and they, in turn, became the foundation for the European Renaissance and our modern scientific world. It's a continuous chain of human achievement, with each link strengthening the next.
Today, when we solve an algebraic equation, use a GPS that relies on astronomical calculations, or benefit from a medical diagnosis based on empirical evidence, we are touching a distant legacy of the House of Wisdom.
It stands as a powerful symbol of what a society can achieve when it values curiosity, embraces diversity, and invests in knowledge.
It's a reminder that at one point in history, the greatest city on earth was not defined by its military might, but by its library.
The story of the House of Wisdom is more than just a history lesson.
It's an inspiration. It shows us the incredible power of bringing people together from different cultures and faiths in the shared pursuit of understanding our world.
Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. I hope you found the story of the House of Wisdom as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories about the hidden chapters of our shared history.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of this story surprised you the most?
Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.